Have you been looking for the real-world mileage and elevation distances afforded to you by the different battery sizes? In today's special edition battery killer, we're going to get into the 600, 600 plus range extender, and the 800 watt internal battery. Let's see what those numbers come out to out on the trail. In an effort to always bring our viewers information that they find valuable and helpful, we asked for feedback about the interest in a battery killer series where we would go out to a set test loop, ride different drive units, different battery sizes aboard different bikes, and just start collecting data so that way you would have a library to sort of look back on and reflect on whether you're looking to buy a bike and you're unsure of which battery option to choose, or you just want data comparing different drive units and different batteries to see how their efficiency and range stacks up. In this special episode of the Battery Killer series, we're going to be riding the Timp Peak with a 600 watt internal battery, see how long it takes for that to go flat, then installing the 250 watt range extender, seeing what an 850 watt hour range gets us with the extender, and then also repeating our course with the 800 watt hour internal battery. As you can guess, I'm not going to be the one doing most of the riding, so we subbed in a test rider and stuntman, Travis. Thanks for joining us. I'm about 190-ish pounds, probably a little more with weight. Travis, what do you weigh?
Yeah, like 195 usually with gear.
Okay, so I think that's important to note because obviously range is going to have a huge impact based on the rider weight. For example, if we get Sour Patch on here and his little 160-pound Skeletor behind, he can ride an Eco forever. And, you know, Robert, who's 220 pounds, is always riding in one power mode stronger and draining batteries much quicker. So let's talk a little bit about our test parameters, the test track, and what your experiences were on the bike. So Travis, take it away. What was your test loop and what were your experiences overall?
Knowing I was going to have to do lap after lap after lap after lap, I wanted to choose a test course that wasn't going to just gas me out on the first one or two laps. So I also wanted to get a lot of mileage. So I chose a nice kind of long, steady road climb. There were definitely some steeper bits of it, but for the most part, a pretty gradual road climb. Roughly 3 miles, I think, up to the top. A little trail down, again, wanting to maximize the climbing on just one lap. I took a little trail down, climbed back up roughly 100 feet, 200 feet, and then back down all the way to the bottom to then start what would be the next lap. So I think total climbing was just about 1,000 feet per lap, and then total mileage per lap, both climbing and descending, I want to say was just over 4 miles, I think, if I remember right. Yeah.
I guess for the record, I would say the climbing and the descending are both pretty steep. So when it was downhill time, you weren't not pedaling.
No,
so
yeah,
the only pedaling done was on the way.
Yeah, you don't need to pedal downhill here.
Yeah.
And it's also, this is where we come and ride when it's usually a bit more moisture.
Yeah.
It's the middle of summer. So it's definitely very loose and very dry here as well.
Yeah, but this is kind of one of our primary test spots. It's where we do a ton of our filming. I've already done a couple of test rides for the Battery Killer series. So we wanted to try to have similar terrain and loop for this test to be comparative to all the others. So before we get into what those numbers are, from a ride perspective, there is a couple of pound weight difference between the 600 and the 800 internal batteries. Just riding the difference between, did you notice any change in handling, performance, playfulness of the bike?
From 600 to 800, I really couldn't notice a difference. When I did notice a difference was having the range extender on there. So with the 600 watt hour battery, throwing that range extender on there, it was on the first descent, the first little thing that you can pull up over and just, it's not a huge jump, but just, or a drop, but just getting that front end up. I went to pull up and the weight was noticeable.
Just because of that extra
Just because of that extra, you know, that extra weight just up here. That said, once I noticed that, it was very easy to compensate for, and by lap number 2, it was kind of out of sight, out of mind, sort of thing.
Recalibrated.
Yeah, but 600 to 800, that really was not a noticeable difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, I guess maybe this isn't the best trail. Like, it's not the most dynamic in some senses for noticing, because I personally, you know, did notice a bit of difference in some of the more playful trails where maybe the gradient's a little flatter and you're finding more jumping and playful stuff. But on something really steep like this, yeah, I think you're probably right. Having that extender up above the top tubes, shifting the center of gravity is probably a little more noticeable.
Yeah, I think if I was on a flowier jump trail, or just even something where there was more side hits, where you're, you know, kind of jumping off roots and trying to clear this rock and whatever, it probably would have been more noticeable. But up here, it is just kind of point it downhill, hang on, and do your best. So yeah.
Moving into the actual test, I think it's important to note that we currently have Bosch's experimental update. It's not consumer ready. It has been announced, but Bosch came out to our eMTB shootout and updated, I think, I don't know, 6 or 7 of our Bosch equipped bikes so we could start riding with that updated power. What we did for this test is we rode the bike till empty in turbo, which makes use of the new 100 newton meters of torque, so full max power. And then Travis went out, thank you very much, and repeated battery killing rides in the eMTB mode. Not eMTB plus, but eMTB, which is 85 newton meters of torque. So if you're just looking at the numbers for mileage and elevation in boost and you're like, wow, that's a big difference, just take note, that's because it is the 100 newton meter setting, which we are currently riding and testing right now. So Travis, let's take it away first. 600 watt hour internal battery.
600 watt hour internal battery, eMTB mode. My ride time was 1 hour, 44 minutes, got a little over 19 miles, and it was 4,544 feet of climbing.
Okay. Same battery in turbo.
Now, when we bumped that up to turbo, 1 hour, 21 minutes of ride time, 16 miles, and 3,550 feet of climbing. Wow. 3,500, so 1,000 less feet.
Okay. So, and a couple miles less riding.
Yeah, and a few miles less.
Okay. So let's take it over to, I guess, the next jump, which would be the 800 watt hour internal battery.
Do we want to do the range extender in between?
Oh yeah, let's, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's do the add-on, because that would potentially give you guys the information of what it would look like if you killed the battery, went to your car, got the range extender.
Right.
How much more can you get?
Range extender, very similar to just the 600 watt hour in eMTB mode. 1 hour, 46 minutes, 21 miles, 4,989 feet of climbing. So 400 or 500 more feet of climbing.
Out of that extender.
Out of getting that extender off.
So then 600 with range extender in turbo got you roughly the same spot as the 600 in eMTB.
In eMTB, yeah, a little bit more.
Okay. Let's move into the 800 watt internal battery.
So 800 watt in turbo, 1 hour, 42 minutes, 20 miles, 4,907 feet of climbing.
800 watt hour internal in eMTB mode.
eMTB mode, just over 2 hours, roughly 22 miles, and 5,850-ish feet of climbing.
Okay. Now, in terms of, I guess, power assistance, degradation, anything like that, did you notice a change with the range extender and the 800 watt hour battery? Like, once you tapped out of that internal battery and you started getting into that final, you know, 30, 20, 15%, was there a difference in power from the extender versus the 800 when it was low?
That's a good question. I didn't notice that.
I did ask you right after you finished the rides, and you didn't really say you
yeah, there wasn't, from the range, I felt like the range extender, like it just felt like the regular battery running out.
Okay.
You know how, especially as you get down to, oh, I'm at 5%, I'm at 3%, I'm at 1%, and now like you can really feel like it's kind of kicking into that emergency, reserve. Let's get you back to the car mode. It was fairly the same with the range extender as well.
Okay. So it wasn't like a drastic notable like, oh, I'm at 750, 800 watts right now, and this range extender is throttling me down. You didn't notice a big change in
No,
power.
no. The only like interesting, I don't know if it was so much power, if it was battery. When I was in with the 600 watt hour battery in turbo mode, that with no range extender, just 600 turbo, the last 15% just did not want to go away.
Okay.
And so that's probably the only unusual thing with all of my testing that I noticed. Just with all the other configurations, as I'm going up and I'm starting to like run low on battery, I'm anticipating like, oh, if I get up to this point, it's going to be drop down to 10% now. Oh, when I get around this corner, it's going to be 5%. And with 600 watt hour battery in turbo mode, it just, that last 15% just seemed to want to last a long, long time.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And you didn't feel like that ended up biting you later? Like all of a sudden it went from 15 to like 7, and then you're like, oh, whoa, what just happened?
No, it was a very gradual, and I don't know, it's so hard. Obviously I'm trying to like kind of keep up the same cadence and
Sure,
everything.
sure.
This isn't exactly scientific, but maybe it was just all in my head. But it just seemed like that particular mode,
You were
that
looking at
last,
climbs and at
yeah, like
15.
I'm like in all the other modes, it was pretty predictable how quickly it was gonna drop, and I was just watching it tick away
Okay.
every percentage. And then that mode, for whatever reason, just wanted to hang on in the turbo
Interesting.
mode. Yeah.
Well, then with all of the information and ride experiences that you have been presented, if you were purchasing a bike and that brand offered you a 600 with a range extender or an 800 internal, would your opinion change on what you would buy, or what would you pick?
I was actually really impressed with the 600. Having the range extender option was awesome. 600 watt hour battery, even in eMTB mode, I wasn't super stoked about like, okay, got to go grind up a hill in eMTB, right? We're always like, let's just hit that to turbo. I was really impressed with how well you just drop the cadence a little bit, and this thing with the Bosch motor just grinds up the hills, no issue. Even when I wasn't doing my test lap, I went and just took it eMTB mode up some of the steeper bits, and I was really surprised with just, yeah, in the lower, torque, and with the lower torque and everything, how well it grinded up the hill.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So then you wouldn't be, I guess, you wouldn't necessarily go one way or another, or would you lean towards maybe a
I
600?
think I'd go with the 600, save a
Okay,
little bit of weight.
okay.
Being a dad, I'm not gonna go out on super long rides.
Yeah.
And on the occasion where it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna be gone for several hours, having that range extender and being able to just eke out a little
bigger
bit
ride.
more,
Okay.
I think it's the way to go.
Okay. I think I would go with you on that one personally. I like lighter, more playful bikes,
Yeah.
and I think a 600 would be my choice, and having the range extender option would probably be my pick. I know lots of people out there want the 8, and they just won't always have it on tap. One last question. Is this the first Bosch bike you've ridden with the power update?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts of the 100 Newton meters of torque versus the 85? I mean, especially here, it's really steep, loose. There is some technical climbing. Did you ever struggle with it at times, keeping traction? Did you find it was too much? Were you happy to have it? All of the above.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to complain about having more power, more torque. There's definitely a bit of a learning curve getting used to it, like knowing that, especially in stuff like this where it is pretty loose, if you get into some steep bits, you can spin the tires pretty easily. With that said, I definitely wouldn't have any complaints about it or be like, oh, it's too much power. Little bit of adjustment period, but yeah, I got along with it just fine. And having a little bit more torque, especially for those steeper bits where it gets punchy, to kind of get you up and going, is really nice.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Travis. Appreciate it. And thank you all for tuning in. And hopefully you found some value and some maybe usable numbers, right? Obviously, our weight and our terrain is very different. And that's part of the reason we've taken so long to started answering that question of what kind of range can I get out of that bike, because while we didn't get that many miles today, we could just as easily take this bike across the valley and probably get a 40-mile ride in with the same battery in the same power modes. So of course, your mileage may vary, but hopefully it gives you a little bit of a taste of what you could experience for elevation gain out of these battery options from Bosch with the 100 Newton meter torque or the 85. Thank you guys very much for watching. Of course, we'd be honored if you would consider joining our channel and subscribing for more videos. Thanks, and we'll see you out on the trails.